Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Manga chapter review. This one's going to be for chapter 17, which I believe is called A Deceiving Phantom. And yeah, so another monthly chapter here, another, long wait with just about probably enough kind of actually revealed in this chapter to justify that wait. Though, of course, I think the problems of the monthly manga still persist. It doesn't seem to be improving anytime soon, and definitely just the pacing continues to be a bit of a problem. And then I think specific to this arc so far with the Kara, I personally haven't been as intrigued by them because I felt it's very much been a case of here's a mysterious group. Let's not tell you basically anything about them, but they're mysterious, so you want to know about them, and that's kind of where they are right now. It doesn't really feel like we're getting any proper motivations, any details about why or what they're doing, and so right now they are still just this mystery group to me. There's not a lot of oh, I'm suddenly invested in them now. This chapter does a little bit to help with that, with obviously the character they kind of reintroduce, but I think I'm still somewhat unconvinced with the Kara, even though I think there's the potential with them to be, quite interesting going forward. But overall, the chapter was a, solid enough follow-up to the last one, but not great. I think the main disappointment, for sure, is the Konohamaru stuff that starts off this chapter, in that they cover more of it, but they stop basically just where it kind of felt like the last chapter stopped. That we're still basically in the same position, it's just, oh, here's what Konohamaru was doing inside of the ship, and someone has gradually walked forward a few more steps. I feel like we should have got some of the action here. As it is, we just kind of end up with Konohamaru's kind of puts uses the memory card and tries to get some of the data out of the kind of coffin thing, and then the guy who's with him was injured and kind of seemingly taken out. I'm not sure if he's dead, but it seems like Konohamaru now is going to go into a fight, which I think is what everyone thought was going to happen in this chapter, based off last chapter. Then I feel they waste a little bit of time here. While I like this scene in the office with Sasuke and Naruto, perhaps part of this comes down to the translation that we have, because I don't think... I think it was a bit weird in that it was another chapter that was quite heavily delayed, seemingly, from when they usually come out. And the translation, while I think solid overall, seems at times a little literal in terms of is this really what this scene was about? But it's just it's ultimately the setup for this mission that Boruto's going on, and the kind of arc that they kind of place him in here is that oh, here now he is against this ninja technology, and here's the guy who basically kind of tricked him into using ninja technology, and now he doesn't understand why Naruto is saying that you can use ninja technology sometimes but not other times. It all just felt a bit what are we really getting at here? Just kind of say it rather than teasing this out over 20 pages. I do like how they're very, Sasuke especially, is very just kind of open with everyone and says just I believe that basically covertly operating out there are beings that we haven't encountered yet that have powers that are similar to the Otsutsuki, and that they're really setting this up. Mitsuki immediately points out the connection between, do you mean Boruto's seal on his arm? And it's just pretty clear that basically Sasuke's told everyone, and I like that it's no longer a secret that Boruto has this seal on his hand, that Naruto is completely aware of it, and just everyone trusts him on it. It was almost the complete opposite of how they did Boruto's eye power in the anime, where it seemingly took ages for anyone to really kind of believe he had it or anything like that. But I like that they're kind of speculating about it, that clearly you have the seal because of Momoshiki Otsutsuki, but we're not really sure exactly what's going on now, but they haven't quite got the full extent of the organization, the Kara, but I assume Sasuke has relayed some of this to Naruto. But it's again setting up that the kind of Otsutsukis are still kind of looming over the series to a degree, and as I've talked about in many of my other reviews, I kind of feel like it's it's almost time to really maybe expand the Naruto universe and kind of fully go like, okay, we basically told you in original Naruto that Otsutsukis are aliens and they come from like a different dimension or a different planet. Can we cover the details surrounding that, and I suppose where these powers truly come from, and the importance of humans in this world, and that sort of thing. But again, it's then when we get into the kind of murky stuff. I feel the official translation when it comes out is probably going to make this a little clearer about the point Naruto is trying to make here about ninja technology, and why Boruto is opposing it initially and doesn't understand what Naruto is trying to say. Because I felt like they almost covered this in the last chapter, or maybe it was the one before that, where they basically said that, like, it's fine to use ninja technology at certain points. I like that Naruto does bring up here the distinction of, like, the reason the tools are banned in the tuning exams is because the point of the tuning exams is to test your own strength. Not to test, if you can just flat out win a fight. The whole point of those exams is just that you show how powerful you are yourself. If we send you out on a mission, we'll let you use ninja tools, because you'll have your own strength plus all these ninja technology tools. And that's sort of the point he's trying to make. Then he also brings up the idea of, like, I like how they introduced the science guy again, and they're like, the point he immediately makes is that when you have this absorption power, you can reduce damage to the surrounding areas. That fundamentally the idea of this, in terms of how it's being used for people who aren't ninjas, is that here's a way for them to kind of protect themselves, limit damage from these really powerful attacks that people do. It's just, at times they're a bit all over the place with it. And Naruto says, this is excellent technology. Besides, it's a power that supports the Hokage, similar to how supportive Sasuke is to me, whom you admire. This is different from the intention of banning it from the tuning exams. As I said, the purpose of that exam is to test one's own innate strength. It wasn't a question of if it was a good or bad thing. What's crucial is how it's being used, no matter what kind of strength it is. And then Boruto obviously comes out with his new kind of ideal, which is that being a shinobi is about effort and willpower. You think that's what's crucial about them instead. And it's kind of like, what? And Naruto's just like, I guess you don't understand. That's alright, because you have the basics down since you're already Genin. So I suppose he's getting the idea of, like, Naruto's happy that Boruto now has the whole idea of it's all about effort, but doesn't get the distinction of, like, you can use ninja tools just at the right moment in the right way. They're just a little bit kind of murky about what exactly they mean. But the mission is a C-rank mission. They have to escort Kazusuke, who is the science guy, and they have to take the prosthetic hand that Naruto used in the fight, that's the absorption power thing, to Ryutan City's research facility. And C-rank mission. Boruto kind of storms off at this point, mainly because it involves Kazusuke, and it's this big kind of moment of, like, he doesn't want to do this mission, even though he's finally been given a mission by his father. He does ask Mitsuki and Sarada to look out for Boruto on the mission, and basically, don't take their eyes off him, and watch out for what happens with the seal. And they all assume he'll eventually come to accept the mission, and it ends up being like Mitsuki who kind of, like, guilts in a way and kind of, like, manipulates Boruto into joining the mission, in that he says, okay, Sarada's going to go on the mission on her own because she wants to prove herself to the 7th Hokage, because she wants to be the next Hokage. And then Mitsuki also says that, like, this is all about protection. Like, you said that you would protect Sarada as the protector to the Hokage, like Sasuke. If you let her go on this mission on her own, you're not doing that. And then the other point he makes is, a valuable hand for the sake of protecting everyone in the village. Those people include your younger sister and mother, right? And just saying that, like, in doing any mission for the village, you're kind of protecting everyone, and you've basically made this grand statement that you want to protect everyone, and now you're not doing that, and it's just this kind of, subtle manipulation from him. I suppose you're seeing some of the Orochimaru factor coming out here with Mitsuki. He ultimately accepts a mission is a mission. They go on the train, and yeah, this is, I suppose, where it really kind of takes off. They end up sitting next to. Sorry about the pronunciation of his name. I haven't watched the episodes in a while to have his pronunciation, but Aoi, whatever his name is, Ao. Um, the guy with the Byakugan from the Mist Village, and he's just there on the train. And immediately we're just kind of like, wait, because I immediately thought it kind of was him before they introduced it, but I'm like, isn't he meant to be dead? Wasn't he like just killed in like probably the most like inescapable like death moment in the series of like when the headquarters was hit with the giant kind of ten tails bomb? He was there, right there, because he was part of the sensing team. But they do reveal over the course of this chapter that he was really badly injured, but with the help of technology to some degree, with Katsuki's help, he was able to, go back to, duty to some degree, in that he now has a, prosthetic leg and arm, in addition to, I suppose, the what seems like some sort of a prosthetic thing around. I assume he still has the Byakugan. And they do mention at some point later on with the big reveal that he's kind of can use genjutsu, but he does mention he can't do taijutsu. So it seems like he can do some things because he's still very skilled and powerful in some ways, but there's not everything kind of to him. But it's an interesting kind of discussion that we get here, because I suppose with Aoi we get the idea that he kind of points out the another positive side of like ninja technology, in that they basically say that like prosthetics are as a result of advancing ninja technology, and that's another way of kind of looking at it. Whereas Boruto had kind of made a bigger statement about like he just hates all ninja technology, whereas he sees this kind of old war veteran kind of using that stuff to kind of get to that point. And I think Mitsuki similarly makes a point about like Naruto's hand, about like if he didn't have the whole Hashirama cell thing with his kind of clone arm, he could use a ninja technology to have both his hands. And obviously with Aoi being like more injuries than even Naruto or Sasuke, it allows him to just be someone again. And it just, yeah, Sarada kind of points out the same thing. The kind of difference, Kazuki makes the point, scientific. Let's consider the scientific ninja weaponry to start off. Rather, we're catering towards civilian usage by taking another direction with the technology. That's what we're in the process of doing, making things like prosthetic hands and legs, and we see kind of Katsuki kind of repairing Aoi's kind of prosthetics for a little bit, and what's the core of the point that we're getting here? He does introduce himself. He fought in the war for the Mist. Boruto brings up very interestingly here a reference to what's taking place in the anime right now, which is the field trip to the Mist Village, which is the anime arc right now. But obviously, Boruto here, that would have taken place in the past, so it fits really well. And we get here that he hasn't been back to his own village since the war, so he has no idea about what's going on there. And the implication, I suppose, by the end is that he hasn't gone back for very specific reasons, and that not a lot of people know potentially that he is alive still, and he's kind of undercover to a degree. But that's very interesting. He does say here, the place where it was posted had befallen a horrific situation. Everyone who was at the post died except me. So he right now we're being presented with the fact that he was the only survivor of that giant blast. So no hope of like Shikamaru's father being alive or Ino's father being alive. So just kind of establishing that nope, he's the only one who got out. And Aoi just kind of points out to Boruto, so do you still dislike the scientific ninja weaponry? And Boruto's like, no, not anymore. He just does this thing where he kind of like goes up to Boruto and kind of threatens him with the screwdriver, and basically says, this idea of like, see, I could have killed you if you'd been my enemy. And it's just this kind of moment of, he says, no matter what, it only depends on how you use it. The very thing itself is neither good nor evil. That's how you should feel about these kind of things, all right. So it's an interesting way of kind of presenting that kind of point, of just like, here's someone who has a screwdriver, and it's like, you can use a screwdriver to repair something, or you can actually use it to kill someone. It all depends about how you use it. Is a screwdriver evil just because someone happened to use it to kill someone? Not really. Similarly with those weapons, and this seems to very much help Boruto. And they basically get off there. He says to Boruto, send my regards to Lord Hokage, and he kind of invites him to come to Konoha at some point. And it's revealed then the person sitting behind them in the train was actually Koji from the Kara. And he says, that boy gives off quite the pleasant atmosphere. And it's revealed here that Aoi is part of Kara. He is one of the... Did I say he's one of the Outers? Specifically? I think it's later on they might say that. But anyway, they obviously make this connection here that he's somewhat connected to the kind of the Kara. And he tells them, we've lost the vessel, and that he kind of wants him to do something with regards to just getting back into action. That they say, you casted genjutsu on Kadasuke, posing as someone from Kusa. You showed that you successfully extracted information regarding the scientific ninja weaponry. And, oh yeah, you see this here, amongst the Outers that I would place such a reliance upon. And he entrusts him with the recovery of the vessel, and that the two Jonin have immobilized near the vessel. So it's almost like they're setting up this idea of like the Konohamaru stuff we've been seeing in terms of a timeline is actually set kind of after this scene, so that potentially the person attacking Konohamaru and the other Jonin is Aoi, and it's just that now that we have the information, now we can fully get that fight. I think that's the interpretation. If not, it's going to be this like three-way fight or something like that happens. And he basically says, there's a briefcase beneath my foot right now with all this weaponry. Use it however you seem fit. And he says, from what I understand though, it might not be necessary at all for you. And it's just kind of ending with this kind of moment of Boruto saying, he was such a good person, wasn't he? I want to hear more things from him. And Aoi saying, indeed, I suppose it'll be for the first time in 16 years that I'll be partaking in some actual conflict. And they kind of set up with the kind of dialogue towards the end that, indeed, Boruto and Aoi will meet again. But I'm very much interpreting this as like, yeah, this probably means that, he is the one attacking Konohamaru and so on. But very interesting. I think probably the explanation will end up being for how he survived is that the Kara somehow found him as like the only potential survivor after the blast, and healed him up and made him a part of their group. Maybe there was some level of like converting him over to their ideals that went on, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do now, because this suddenly makes the Kara at least a little bit more interesting to me, in that like here's a character we actually know who's part of this group. Now we have a known character. Now how invested, connected he is to their ideals we don't really know, but it's at least something there as well. And Boruto seems to like this guy from just this chapter, and it will create an interesting moment of, I suppose, betrayal for him, seeing this guy who he thinks is this kind of like, legendary in a way shinobi who was in the Fourth Ninja War, and now someone has betrayed them, and like, what does that mean? So, a solid enough chapter. I do feel there's some wasted time. I felt like the whole idea throughout the second half of this chapter of like, what does it mean to use a ninja tool properly and not properly, was just, I thought they spent way too much time trying to create a distinction where it was such a simple thing of just like, they can be used for good, they can be used for bad, just use them in the right situation. It was such a needlessly complex way to get to like a simple solution. But yeah, Boruto chapter 17, solid enough, but I really hope that starting with the next chapter they pick up the pace, that we're straight into action, moving the plot along much quicker. But as I said, I enjoyed the chapter. The series seems to be getting better. I like that this this chapter made a very clear connection between the anime and, you know, the manga, establishing that everything is connected, everything's canon. So that was good as well. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the chapter. But yeah, that's been the video for today. Thanks for watching, and bye.